So it's a lovely day today. I've just been out cycling, just arrived at the allotment and just going to do a couple of hours work here. I thought it was a good time to show you around all the different things that are going on as we wind down all the summer harvests and really ramp up all of the plantings for autumn, winter and spring. So look round. So I'll start with the compost. This is my month-old tub. It's been at 60 degrees for a month. I've turned it twice, turned a lot of extra greens into it. This is my 3-month-old. It's running about, well, it was about 50. It's just dropped down a little bit. And this is my 6-month-old. And so that'll be ready for use in spring. So that's not so bad. Brussels sprouts are doing nicely. A few caterpillars on them, not too bad. My climbing squashes, started taking a few of those, especially the winter buffy balls at this end. They've been really good. And these are the storage beetroot, coming on pretty well. Noticeably less beet leaf minor on these than the ones that were planted earlier. And leeks, a little bit of rust on those, but they are surviving. And then these are colettes, giant colettes, doing really well. No caterpillars on those at the moment, and then more Brussels and then more colettes. Great crop off these gooseberries, but they're now completely defoliated by sawfly, but they always seem to recover. And then round the edge here, these are the purple sprouting broccoli. I'm actually taking these nets off today, and that'll mean I can get in there, give them a good weed and a good water. I'll have to find somewhere else to put the nets. And then we'll look at all the carrots. So these are winter and early spring. These are kind of smaller carrots, which hopefully will be super sweet salad carrots in kind of November, again through to late spring. And if we just walk down here, these are the autumn carrots, although that's really lovely. So I have been sneaking a few of those for the salads. And then down here we've got the what's remains of the summer carrots there. And I'll just put up a little picture of the harvest from this week so you can see the kind of size of some of those carrots. Really good crop of carrots there. And this bed, calabrese and golden purslane, this is being cleared today so I can get it replanted, probably with pak choi and tatsoi, I think. The golden purslane got black fly, and although we got a good harvest off it, it's kind of come to the end now. So we've still got a few courgettes going. These are the ones we planted later. The early ones have pretty much finished now. And then the trees are doing quite nicely. There's an apple tree there, cherry tree there. We got our first harvest off that cherry tree this year. And these are the Brabants. And this is the first year that we've got anything remotely like a decent harvest off this tree. These strawberries are finished now. They've been in 5 years. And so I'm taking these out, and I think this is going to be my elephant garlic bed. Finish off with these colettes here. And unfortunately, the reason that I was having problems with the colettes, at this end anyway, because I took them out because they basically died, was clubroot. That's the first clubroot that I've had on my plot. So given that there's kind of problems all the way along here with some of the colette sizes, I think that this bed somehow has got clubroot, and I can only think that somehow my compost has got contaminated, and when I mulch this bed with compost I introduced clubroot somehow, which is a bit of a blow. Hopefully it's not spread to any of the beds. We'll just have to see. Let's look at the peppers. So these are the early peppers. These are the ones we started harvesting in late May and then harvested all through June and July. There's still a few little ones on here, but most of the big ones, you know, they've all been picked. And might be worth, I haven't quite decided yet, it might be worth leaving this bed in for a harvest in October. But I do have to start progressively clearing my pepper beds to get them replanted with my autumn, winter, spring stuff. My second oldest pepper bed, and you can see here a really nice crop coming here, and that's kind of the case on most of the plants. We haven't harvested that much from this bed yet. We're just at the point now where it's starting to colour up, and yeah, I'm really pleased with them. I mean, if you look at these, if you can see, it's really hard to see green on green, but a really nice harvest there. And lots of these lovely little lunchbox peppers. But you know, the star of the show, as it always is the long yellow wingo. It is absolutely our favourite. So incredibly prolific. Anyway, that's enough about that. And down here, I've got another bed. And this is the third oldest. I kind of did them in successions this year, just because I don't have enough space for everything. But again, really nice quality of these. Just very pleased with them in general. And I started interplanting around all the edges with lettuces because we are a bit short of lettuce this year, mainly because of blooming caterpillars and cutworms and all of that. Strawberries have recovered well from their haircut. So here's my last two pepper beds. And again, really nice crop off them. I've interplanted around the outside with beetroot, which seems to do really well in the heat of these low tunnels, even though beetroot is often talked about as a cold loving plant. It seems to respond really well to the heat. And in this one, these are the babies. So I think actually in hindsight, these were planted maybe just a little bit too late. So if I look at these, I can't find a label, but I think yeah, these were just left in their original pots. They weren't potted on. Made it for a very space efficient planting, but you know, you can see the plants are small, the peppers are small, and I don't think I'll get another crop off them after this crop that's maturing right now. You can see like little plants. I don't think we'll get another crop off these, so maybe this bed is the first one to be cleared. And here's another look at this one. You can see colouring up really nicely. So that's the peppers. So these two beds are beetroot, and these two beds. And this one was interplanted with onions. You see, they've all gone to seed. I've just kind of left them for now, and just because I can't be bothered to go through and compost them all, because we don't need any more onions to use right now. So I might just even let them flower because they'll look nice. Quite a lot now here of damage on these leaves. There's rust on those. There's kind of rust starting on these. What I often do when I see that is I just take the tops off completely, and the tops regrow rust free. So I think I might do that. This one's interplanted with leeks. That one's interplanted with salad onions, and it did have main crop onions in it as well, which we've harvested, and they didn't go to seed. And then here we've got the earliest of my parsnip beds. This one's ready for harvest now. In fact, I harvested the first one this week, and it was huge. So yeah, we'll be eating parsnips now between all through August and September, and then this bed will be replanted with spinach. Okra's doing okay, just about keeping on top of the watering. These little tubs, they do take a fair amount of water because there's a lot of foliage there, and although okra is fairly kind of tolerant to low water levels, you do need to keep it watered if you want a good harvest. And there's my pear tree. For the first time actually, I took the trouble to go through and thin every other pear off here, because always seems to have a huge harvest, and they're growing on quite nicely now, so I'm quite pleased with them. And the lettuce beds. So I'm harvesting the lettuces as full heads at the moment, just because I'm being lazy, and I'm kind of thinking that I might live to regret that, because I've got a lot of problems with cutworm in that bed. You can see I've lost all those plants there. I've just lost another one here. Blooming cutworm's just moving around. Don't know where it is in the bed. It just takes like a lettuce a day. It's a real pain. And there's nothing in this bed, fortunately, so that's not so bad. I do have more lettuce coming. That's what's going to go in here. I'll fill all these gaps back in again with new lettuces, and then hopefully we'll have enough, especially because all these lettuces around these edges here of these pepper beds are kind of going to almost be ready for harvest, so that's a bonus. One little bed of kale in here that's doing okay for winter. I ain't going to be planting more kale on the allotment. Just don't have any space right now for it. Kale back at home is doing pretty well, but the new kale back at home that I just planted about, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, something like that, is doing really badly. Again, it's just blooming cutworms. It's hard to know. I've watered in with the nematode fruit and veg protection that kills cutworms, but like any of these nematodes, they're never 100% effective, and they take a while to work anyway, so I won't know for a few weeks probably whether it's worked properly. Let's take a look in the polytunnel. Oh, just before I do, these are the strawberries that I grew in all of my hanging baskets, and transplanted them into these big pots. Normally the ones in the hanging baskets I just compost because they're just so, you know, they're so exhausted having sat in a little tiny hanging basket for a long time. But in these pots they're doing really well, so I think I was just going to replant these ones back into the hanging baskets again because they're looking great. And I've just taken the hanging baskets out that have got tomatoes in them, and again I got a great crop of tomatoes off those. I was really pleased with them. I'm going to do more tomatoes in hanging baskets next year. These are the tumbler. These were the sweetheart strawberries, and then these are Albion, I think, and these are a late strawberry, so these will just start to flower now, and these are the ones that we'll be eating in autumn. Celery that I put in these is doing really well, so this is celery that we'll eat over winter, and hopefully I'll have some celery that we'll eat in spring as well, but that hasn't germinated yet. So right, I've got quite a few cucumber plants in here. We've now harvested well over 500 cucumbers, and I think this week we harvested another 30 odd. You know, I'm getting to the point now where I'm not that keen on eating more cucumbers, but you know, the plants keep on kicking them out, so we'll eat them. We don't, Debbie and I don't eat them all. We do share them obviously with all of our friends and family, but yeah, tomatoes are doing well. Slightly, harvest rate's slightly behind where we were last year. You know, maybe 2 weeks. I think they stalled, you know, during that really hot weather, and then we had quite cold weather, and even some nights below 10 degrees centigrade here, and that kind of stalled them, and it definitely seems to have stalled these cucumbers in the containers, whereas the ones that are in the ground, the grafted ones, are huge, but we have got quite a few caterpillars on them. But the plants just, they're so big and so resilient, they just seem to be throwing off, you know, obviously they're losing a few leaves, but you know, I take the leaves off when I notice the caterpillars really getting on them, but they just keep throwing off out new leaves all the time, so they keep on going. As I say, when they stop going, I stop eating them until next year. So that, I think, is pretty much it in the polytunnel. We've got a few leeks and bits and pieces scattered around, which we'll be harvesting now basically, and yeah, I think I'll call it a day. My name's Steve, this is the Seaside Kitchen Garden and Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.